A Knicks Timberwolves final would be absolutely epic. Let's just be real for a second. All right? Now, I want to break down these two games because these two series are going to be incredible. Thunder T-Wolves, Knicks Pacers are going to be great theater, but Knicks T-Wolves would be epic with all the storylines there. Dante and Julius back to New York, where they had so much of an impact on that franchise. Cat back to Minnesota, where he had so much of an impact on that franchise. The Tibbs, Minnesota bad blood, right? Like the Villanova reunion. There's storylines abound. Obviously, Anthony Edwards being center stage in New York City on Broadway with a chance to become the face of the league and take over, basically, as that new young star with his first chip, trying to get his first chip. Brunson trying to become like the best Knick ever. If he ever won a chip, my goodness, he'd automatically become the best Knick ever. So when you look at all the storylines, that final would be fire. That's what I'm rooting for. But I'm just going to tell you about the games in general. Let's start Knicks Pacers, okay? Let's start with that series. Look, both teams caught a bit of a break in the second round. We just got to be honest. We got to call it like it is. They're both playing well, and they both earned their way here, but they also caught a break. The Pacers obviously played the Cavs. Game 1, no Darius Garland. Had a big impact on them. That's their second best player. Game 2, they played without Garland, Hunter, and Mobley, and still had to pull a miracle out of a hat to get that game. And then from that point on, I know the Cavs dump trucked them in Game 3, but the series was never the same. Once you blow those first two games like that, it's hard to come back, as you saw with the Celtics and Knicks. The Celtics blew and choked the first two games of that series. Now, give the Knicks credit for coming back and staying mentally tough, making the plays down the stretch. But two teams have to be a part of a 20-point comeback late in the second half. The Celtics had to choke just as much as the Knicks had to come back, and they did. So the Celtics blew the first two games there, and that was the difference in the series as well there. Even though the Celtics blew the doors off the Knicks in Game 3, the Knicks came back, won Game 4. Obviously, Tatum gets hurt in the end of Game 4, but it was going to be a 3-1 series lead anyway. At that point, it's pretty much done. The Celtics, for them to win 3 games in a row would be difficult. So from that standpoint, it was over. So both teams really got through the second round very, very similarly. Very similarly. Both stole the first 2 games on the road, especially Indiana Game 2. Knicks stole both. Both got blown out in Game 3 at home. Came back with an impressive win in Game 4 at home, and then obviously the Knicks took it in 6, the Pacers took it in 5, but both teams went on to win the series against banged-up teams. Now, does that mean anything for this series? Of course not. Of course not. I'm very interested to see how Indiana plays the Knicks defensively in this series, because if you've watched the second half of the year, I've talked about it ad nauseum. Karl Anthony Towns is the key to the Knicks. He is the key. When he plays well, they usually win. Right? And listen, it goes further than that. Obviously, we know the impact that Bridges and OG have as well. They really need one of those two guys to play well too. But Towns needs to play well. Brunson, Towns, and then either OG or Bridges, and the Knicks usually win. So Towns is such a key in this series, and what teams have been doing to take him out of his offensive flow, because Towns is the type of player, he is not your traditional big, right? And obviously we see a lot of these guys in today's game, obviously Chet Holmgren, Wembanyama, there's a lot of guys who play like guards as big men. But Towns especially, he does not love to go back to the basket. He's not Embiid. He's not Jokic. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to play out on the perimeter, shoot threes, and pump fake and use his quickness against centers to get the ball to the basket and dunk. Well, the teams have been saying, you know what? We're going to put a smaller guy on you because we know you don't like to dominate in the post anyway. So we're going to put a wing player or even a guard sometimes on him to run him off the three-point line and take away his three-point shooting. And the Celtics, the Thunder did that earlier in the season. A lot of teams have used this model, and it has completely changed the way Towns has played. Towns made, I think, maybe 3 or 4 threes the entire series against the Celtics in 6 games. He only took like 14 threes the whole series after taking 6 a game during the season. Because the difference is Towns does not have a high release point on his shot. He shoots from here. So when you put a wing on him who's going to be up in his jersey, he can't get that shot off unless he has a little bit of space. So then what the defense is doing, let's put a wing player up in his jersey. So he can't get his three off. And because he's quicker than pretty much every center, he's not quicker than a wing. So that takes away his ability to drive the way he would against a center, and that completely changed his game, relegating him to a post-up player, which he does not want to be, and really takes away a lot of his greatness as a big man. So I would expect the Pacers to put Siakam on him. That would be my guess. If they put Turner on him, Turner's going to get abused. If the Pacers put Miles Turner on him like they did during the regular season, Karl Anthony Towns is going to have a field day against Indiana. I don't think they're going to do that. Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the league. I expect them to put Siakam on Towns, put Turner on Hart like these teams have been doing because they don't care if Hart shoots a three. They're going to dare him to shoot like everyone has done. And then we're going to see how the Knicks are going to adjust from that. And then it's going to be up to Bridges and OG to hit outside shots, especially threes. And when they did that in the Celtics series, the Knicks won. When they didn't, they lost. That's what it's going to come down to. So in this series, because I think if you look at it, let's look at it from a Knicks offensive standpoint. We just talked about how the Pacers are going to play them. Siakam probably on Towns, Turner on Hart, right? They'll put Nesmith on Brunson, I would think. I can't imagine that Carlisle, after what he saw Nembhard do against Brunson last year in the playoffs, and he got absolutely obliterated, that he's going to put Nembhard on him again. Nembhard's too small. He's a good defender. He's too small for Brunson. It's not a good matchup. As soon as they put Nesmith on him in the series last year, he gave Brunson trouble. I would think that's the way they're going to go. That's the matchups I think you're going to see. And that means Nembhard is probably going to be on Bridges or OG, and that's going to be an advantage for one of those guys because they're just bigger than him. Bridges will shoot over him in the mid-range. You know he likes to do that. And OG will get down the post and use his physicality. So I think either one of those is an advantage for the Knicks. And on the other side of the ball, I think you have a couple great matchups for the Knicks as well. Bridges is probably going to check Halliburton. I think that works to the Knicks' favor, especially because Bridges, he's not a strong guy. He's a terrific defender, but he's not physically strong. But neither is Tyrese. Tyrese is tall. Bridges has got that. And Bridges can check him. Laterally, he can do it. He can stay with him. I think that's a great matchup for the Knicks defensively. And then they're going to put OG on Siakam. Another good matchup for them. And if you saw the playoffs last year, when the Knicks played the Pacers in the second round, the Knicks had all those injuries. Before they had the injuries, when OG was healthy for the first two games, he completely took Siakam out of his game. Siakam's a physical player, but so is OG. And that works to OG's advantage. And as soon as OG got hurt at the end of game two, Siakam absolutely went to work on the Knicks in the rest of the series. Hart's too small for him, and they couldn't check him, and that changed the entire complexion of that series. So I would expect OG to be on him, Bridges to be on Halliburton, and I like those matchups for the Knicks. Now, with that said, the Pacers have a lot of offensive weapons, and they play a lot of guys. They're going to go 10 deep. They're going to go 10 deep. The Knicks are not. We know that. The Knicks are going 7, sprinkle in the 8th guy. They're going 7 deep mainly. Probably with a cameo from Payne in the first half. Right? Pacers are going to play 5 guys in the court who could shoot at all times, unless Thomas Bryant's out there. But they're going to have 5 guys in the court who could shoot at all times. And Toppin's gotten better this year with his shot. Nembhard's gotten better. Nesmith has gotten better. And Halliburton's healthy fully this year, which he was banged up, to be fair, in last year's playoffs. So they're going to be a matchup situation for the Knicks as well, just like Boston was. They just don't have the elite shot makers that Boston did. That's the only difference. Halliburton and Siakam are really good players and good shot makers. They are not the level that Tatum and Brown are. They're just not. So the Knicks, I think they're going to do, we saw against Boston, they did a lot of switching, and that worked against Boston. And it worked to perfection. I think you're going to see a lot more of that against Indiana because they're similarly structured in terms of the 5-out situation with Turner. They might switch it up a little bit because Indiana's a little different than Boston, but there's a lot of similarities there. I think the Knicks will do a lot of switching again. And Indiana's going to do they're going to try to do what they did last year in the playoffs. Chat? Carlisle's going to try. He's going to try to wear the Knicks down. They're going to play fast. They're going to play physical. They're going to hound Brunson up and down the court. Anytime he brings the ball up, they're going to pick him up full court and hound him all the way down the court. Try to wear him out. And if I'm the Knicks and if I'm Tom Thibodeau in this series, I would do everything I could to not have Brunson bring the ball up on most possessions. I would give it to Hart. I would give it to Bridges. If McBride's in there, I would have them bring the ball up and let Brunson get a break. Let him get a breather bringing the ball up the court so he doesn't get hounded and beaten up, 94 feet every time the Knicks get the ball. I would not do that. Let him run up the court free. Hart brings it up. Bridges brings it up. Deuce brings it up. And then Brunson can get the ball in the set of the offense. That's how I would play, because the Pacers are going to hound him if he brings the ball up. And they're going to wear his ass down. So, the one difference I see in this series, the biggest difference I should say, the biggest difference I see, and why I think the Knicks will win this series. Forget last year, because it's a different Knicks team. The Knicks were all banged up last year. They had basically no one left by the end of that series. That was not indicative of what you're going to see this series. And they have new players. They don't have Dante. They don't have Julius Randle obviously wasn't playing in the playoffs anyway, but they don't have Dante. They don't have a bunch of guys. They have Bridges now. They have Towns now, and Mitchell Robinson's back. And he missed that whole series. So the Knicks have a completely different identity now. They're more of an offensive team. Last year, they were more of a defensive team. So throw last year out. But the biggest difference I see in this series is when the Pacers try to wear the Knicks down. The Knicks were not deep last year either. And even though on the surface it seems like they're not deep this year, that's a little bit of a misnomer for this reason. Last year, Tibbs only played about 6 or 7 guys. This year he's playing 7 or 8, which is a little more of an uptick. But last year, even when he played the 6 or 7 guys, he did not trust his bench. Once Mitch went out, especially, and Bogdanovich went out in the first round, didn't trust his bench. He only played McBride 10 to 15 minutes in a game, and he didn't really play anyone else. This year, he is treating McBride, who was great in the Celtics series, and Robinson, who has been great all playoffs. He is treating those 2 guys as starters. He is playing them like starters. They're both playing upwards of 20 minutes a game, sometimes 25 plus. So the Knicks have 7 starters in essence, which is taking the minutes down on the starters. Which last year I thought the starters got worn down. They played too much. Hart was playing 48 minutes a game. Dante was playing. Brunson, they were too banged up. OG got hurt for playing. He was playing so much. This year, they're not playing as many minutes. They're playing low 40s. You can deal with that. Sometimes some of them are playing high 30s, depending on the night. He trusts 7 guys. Last year, he trusted 5. And that's the difference in this Knicks team. And that's why I think the Pacers trying to wear them down, and it's not going to work this year. And the Knicks have too much firepower. And completely at full strength, where the Knicks are right now, assuming both teams stay healthy, and I'm praying they do. I don't want to see anyone get hurt from either side. I think the Knicks have the advantage in this series. And if the Knicks are locked in on defense like they were in the Celtics Game 6, among a couple other games in that series, now we know they could play games. We've seen them in Game 5. They had a lack of interest in playing defense. They can't do that against Indiana. They cannot. Indiana will burn them. Halliburton's playing great right now. That team is playing with a load of confidence. The Knicks have to come out the beginning of this series and hit them right in the mouth. Hit them right in the mouth. Locked in on defense. Know your rotations. Know your switches. Don't let that team get hot early, because they are a front-running team, that Indiana team. When they see some shots go in, then it's over. If you get them early and you take them out of their game, they're going to have nothing left by the second half. Their confidence is going to be shot. And that's what the Knicks have to do in this series. Get to them early. Lock in, hit them in the mouth, and then you'll see what happens. I'm going with the Knicks in 6 in this series. It was Knicks in 6 in the first round. It was Knicks in 6 in the second round. And I think it's going to be Knicks in 6 here in the conference finals. And they're going to go back to the NBA finals for the first time since '99. That's what I think. But it should be a heck of a series, and it's not going to be an easy series, because this Pacers team is dangerous, and they're playing with a ton of confidence. And as we've seen, the Knicks at times, you don't know what team's going to show up. And they can't afford that in this conference finals. They cannot. They can't go down 20 to the Pacers. They can't do it. They can't do that again. They can't dance that again. Now, Thunder, Minnesota. That's a heck of a series. Star power abound. Anthony Edwards versus Shea. Two of the best young players in the league. Basically two of the top 5 stars in the league. Biggest stars in the league. Looking for their first ring. And to me, this is simple as this in this series. I think there's one thing in this series that is going to determine how long this series is and who wins, and potentially who wins it. If the Timberwolves have a propensity to turn the ball over, we've seen it all year. We saw it in the playoffs as well. If they do that against this Thunder team, they will be run out of the gym. They cannot do that against this Thunder team. They have to cut down on those turnovers. Because the Thunder, when they turn you over, you saw it against Denver in the last few games. They turn you over, they turn a 5-point deficit into a 15-point lead before you can even blink. That's how good they are defensively and turning turnovers into points on the other end. That's how good they are. And Minnesota can't get into that dance because they will get danced off the floor. Now, if you watch the Denver series, Denver showed a bit of a blueprint there. Minnesota's a much better defensive team than Denver. And Denver played as good a defense against Oklahoma City as anyone has played all year long. They took them completely out of their half-court offense. Oklahoma City couldn't do much they really couldn't do much of anything in the half-court offense. If Shea didn't get a bucket, they really had nothing. Jalen Williams was very inconsistent. He played great in Game 7, but that Game 7 got out of hand real quick, and it's, that was not a game that was indicative of anything. Denver had no bodies left at that point. Gordon's playing on one leg, Porter's playing with one arm, and Murray's got the flu. They had nothing left for that game, and they have no bench. This is going to be different. Minnesota's got a full roster of healthy hoopers. And they got Dante off the bench. They got Alexander Walker off the bench. They got Naz Reid off the bench. They got guys. They got dudes. So if you're Oklahoma City, you're going to have to figure out a way to get better in the half-court offense in this series. And if I'm Minnesota, I look exactly what Denver did with that matchup zone they played, packing the paint, and I'd play very similar to that with my personnel. I would expect they're going to put McDaniels on Shea. That would make sense. McDaniels, one of the best defensive players in the league. I would expect that OKC is going to put Dort on Anthony Edwards. Same thing there. And OKC's got a slew of defenders they're going to throw at him. Caruso, Wallace, Dort, you name it. They got a ton of good defenders. But if you're Minnesota, look at that blueprint from Denver. If you could play defense like that and stifle OKC in the half court, and I think they showed you in that Denver series, they are not comfortable yet in these playoff situations. They showed it last year against Dallas, and they showed it this year in the Denver series. They're very vulnerable. Shea played well for the most part. I'm really leaving him out of it. But Jalen Williams looked tight at times. The shooters, Wallace, Wiggins, everyone except for Caruso. Wallace, Wiggins. Who else? Holmgren. They look tight at times. You saw Holmgren choke on those 2 free throws in Game 3. Or Game 2, excuse me. They are young still, and those guys, those palms are getting sweaty late in those games. And if it's a close game, Minnesota was there last year in the Western Conference Finals, and they have straight dogs on their team. Anthony Edwards, a dog. He ain't afraid of nothing. Dante, he ain't afraid of nothing. So the difference is going to be, is OKC going to get back to where they were in the regular season in the half court? And are those guys going to loosen up a little bit? Because if they play tight in this series and they don't get the turnovers they got against Denver, with the way Minnesota plays, they're going to have trouble. And I'll say this too. Besides the turnovers, the other big key. Besides the turnovers and the OKC other guys playing loose in the half court, the other big key is Julius Randle. He has been playing lights out in this postseason. There were so many questions about him in the playoffs, going back to his days in New York. We know the 2020 series He did not show himself well. After a brilliant regular season, he was bad in the postseason. And then a couple of years later, he didn't play well either. Now, he was banged up. He was playing on a sprained ankle, so you got to be fair. But he didn't play well there either. And then last year, he missed the entire postseason with an injury. This year, he is making up for it. He was brilliant in the Warriors series. He was great in the Lakers series. He was brilliant in the Warriors series. And if he plays like that, Minnesota's going to be tough to stop on offense. Because with OKC's defense, if you just have one score, you can't win like that. They need Ant to be on the top of his game, who, by the way, he hasn't shot the ball particularly well this playoffs. That needs to turn. He needs to play like the Ant. We know he's capable of playing, and I think he will. Ant needs to be at the top of his game. Julius needs to be at the top of his game, and all the other guys got to play their role. Because you need everything to beat this Thunder team because they are that good. They're the 1 seed for a reason. And maybe they got the cobwebs out against Denver there. Maybe they got that tightness out of them. Where now they're like, all right, we got through that. Denver's championship caliber team, they've been there. We got through that now. They might feel like that. We'll see. But they are a tough team. And history shows you they'd be the team to get to the finals here. Now, I'm torn about who to take in this series. My heart wants Minnesota. I think it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series regardless. And I actually think the road team's going to win. So I think it's either going to be OKC in 6 or Minnesota in 7. That's actually what I think. I think it's going to be OKC in 6 or Minnesota in 7. I'm going to reserve the right to make my pick for tomorrow. So I'm going to keep it there for now. And I'll make my pick tomorrow on TikTok Live. So tune in there. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you, chat. I can't wait for these conference finals. Obviously, tomorrow night, we kick it off with OKC and Minnesota at 8:30, I believe, on ESPN. And then Wednesday night, we have Knicks Pacers at 8 o'clock on TNT. The last TNT coverage of a conference final is in New York. I will be on TikTok Live tomorrow night for the second half of the Timberwolves and the Thunder. So tune into the TikTok Live for that, because I'll be doing play-by-play the second half of that game. I'm going to be doing the second half pretty much every game, unless it's at Madison Square Garden, because I'll be there for those games. But I'll be doing tomorrow night, so tune in around 9:30, 9:45 on the shot clock on TikTok. I'll be doing play-by-play the second half of Thunder Wolves, Wolves and Thunder, Ant and Shea, Julius and Jalen Williams, the whole deal. I can't wait. So tune in tomorrow on TikTok for that. I may jump on earlier in the day too, do a quick live on TikTok too. But I appreciate y'all. It's going to be a heck of a conference finals, and buckle up. I can't wait for tomorrow night. Shot clock is out.